Hello and welcome to Big Brother Basics, where we break down the basics of Big Brother Basics Season 2. My name's Jacob Harple, and joining with me as always is the always ecstatic, always erratic Aaron Nunley.
I'm first. Hi.
It just came out.
Thank you.
I don't know what happened. I don't know.
Continue.
Don't you dare introduce me.
Also with us is the always fantastic, always fabulous Keith Guerrero. Keith, what's up, man?
Well, hello.
It's been a tough morning for us all, and when I say us all, I mean myself. And then finally joining us is the super, the doobity duper, Joe Gonzalez. Joe, how are you?
I'm great. It's the afternoon.
For some of us.
But no, I'm great. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So guys, it's week 2 of Big Brother Basics Season 2. The game is starting to get forward. There's a lot to talk about. So let's just get right into it. The HOH was pretty intense. We had a close battle between Willie and Sam. Ultimately, Willie was able to get that HOH spot. Keith, what was your first reaction seeing that we were going to have a Willie HOH?
I thought it was okay initially, just because he was able to sit back, have immunity, be safe, and but at the same time, I didn't think that he really needed HOH. But you know, he wanted it, he got it, and that's that. But I really didn't have an issue with it at first.
Yeah. One of the interesting things about HOH this week is that we decided to expel Riel after the HOH competition. Joe, do you think that was kind of throwing a wrench in Willie's plans?
I think it threw a wrench in a lot of people's plans. I think most people thought that in the off chance that they did win, that they were going to be able to put her up as an easy nominee. And now they don't have that easiness. And things got a little dicey at times.
Yeah, they did. They definitely did. So, as before the nomination process went ahead, as always, Willie and Jason decided that they wanted to try and take out the saboteur this week. Aaron, let's just kind of talk about the overall process that Willie went through trying to decide his noms and kind of break those down. What did you feel about Willie's target and his decision to go with the people that he went for?
Well, as far as the saboteur talk goes, Jason fell right into the plan of production, which is the envelopes. It was strategic on this side of it to make you think that maybe somebody was given the saboteur spot or just a prize in general through that. And you fell right into that trap card, so shame on you.
You've activated it.
You've activated that trap card. Willie, for some strange reason, was very hooked on Sam for being saboteur. Like, he was given all these reasons. I'm like, you just don't like her. You just don't like her. It's not that she's a saboteur. She hasn't done anything suspicious. She's clueless. She's clueless. Like, she literally doesn't know what's going on in the game. And you're just like, Sab. He just doesn't like her. If you don't like her, just say I'm nominating her because I don't like her. Don't try to hide behind saboteur reasonings or whatever, because you don't know anything about the saboteur. And your buddy Jason doesn't know anything either, so I'm not a big fan of Willie on any level, and he can nominate whoever he wants, just don't hide behind crappy reasonings.
Yeah, no, definitely. So Keith, we ultimately see Sam and Blair get on the block. What was your reaction to these noms? Personally, I was a little bummed out because, you know, Sam was going on for the second week in a row, and you could definitely see that it kind of had an effect on her. Do you agree with that?
I would agree that it had an effect on Sam. I thought it was a bad move for Willie, just because Sam already basically had an enemy in Patrick. And if you're picking up a sloppy seconds as the previous HOH, you're basically given that HOH security in future rounds, and you're picking up what would have been the target on that previous HOH. So Patrick's coming off scotch-free. Sam being nominated a second time is disrespect, and she is going to be more upset at Willie than she was at Patrick, because Patrick didn't really have much to go off of. Sam was around for the first week. She thought she and Willie were at least good enough to the fact that she won't be nominated the second week. She was nominated again. Of course, she's going to be more upset at the person that nominates her the second time as opposed to the first. So I think Willie doing Patrick's dirty work was not necessarily the best move for Willie. I think whenever there are targets like from other people, you don't get involved. And I think he put himself in the limelight. Like, if Sam won HOH, Willie would have never been on her radar. But now that he's put her up, like, he's the only person on her radar now. So I think Willie made a mistake. And with Blair being nominated, I understand because of the envelope theory, but that was potentially a number that Willie could have gotten. And I think it's interesting that, like, even though week 1 pink versus yellow team was like a mess and they had like their yellow alliance, in a sense the yellow team got down a number, which was good for the pink team because they were in a hot mess and playing the game since week 1, and they're concerned about their things. So it seems like the yellow team is beginning to start playing the game, but Willie might have done his team a disservice by putting one of his own yellow team on the block.
You bring up the teams. Do you think that's still a kind of a big aspect of the game right now as far as social dynamics?
It was because the pink team was isolated as the only targets in the house. So they're going to be paranoid, not only against the yellow team, but amongst each other. So they are very concerned about where their standing is inside the game. The yellow team, not so much, and I think that's why Willie ended up nominating Blair. But I think unconsciously, it was a good move for the pink team to get rid of a yellow number just to make sure that that 6-person, 5-person alliance isn't actually a thing.
Just in case.
Yeah.
So let's also kind of start talking about some of the alliances we're seeing pop up. I think the big one that we need to look at is the 3-person alliance that was created between Katie, Jermaine, and Patrick. Joe, what was your reaction about these group of players coming together?
Well, now that they're a solid thing, they definitely have each other's back. I don't know if Jermaine knows how close Katie and Patrick are, but they are a good threesome, and I think that they can do a lot of damage in the house together. The only thing that is a hindrance to them is that people already view Jermaine and Katie as a pair, and then so they're an obvious nom for some people should they be in danger.
I'm not sure if it's an official thing. I haven't seen a call yet between the 3 of them, but I know there's talks. Was it official?
I thought so because I remember them all being on call together, and it seems
Okay.
They seems pretty
Legit.
about it. Yeah. Aaron, so let's kind of talk about that alliance some more because ultimately Jermaine wins the veto, even though he didn't want it. Sometimes it just kind of happens, which is kind of a common theme in Basics. How many vetoes have we seen?
This veto, though,
won?
if you didn't want to win it, you could have not won it.
This video took 2 hours. You could have stayed locked outside the password board until somebody else got it.
Maybe he was just doing it for so long, and then he was ultimately, you know, I
When
might as
you're
well
in
just
the
win
moment,
it.
when you're in Rome,
I totally get that though.
do as the Romans do.
Especially if you're like a competitive player, you're like, oh, I really should throw it, but then it's like the moment the competition starts, it's just something takes
Do you want to
over.
win the power veto or do you want to win the game?
Yeah. No,
I'm just saying.
I'm just saying. Like I see what you mean. But anyway, Jermaine wins, whether he wanted to or not, and we start seeing talks about making a big move. Ultimately, using the veto, I think, on Sam, and then either Ryan or Kirsten would go up. Aaron, what do you think about this plan? Do you think this was a good plan for those 3, or do you think that's something they should have pulled the trigger on?
I think it would have been a good plan for those 3. Not necessarily, maybe Willie in a sense, because I mean, I feel like Sam and Blair are, like, you have those levels of where people are, like, competitively, mentally, and I feel like Willie, no, like, shade on, like, his education or anything, but I just don't feel like he's one of the strong competitors in the house, and so when you're not that strong of a competitor, you shouldn't be going after, like, super weak people. You should be going after people who are gonna win HOH more times than you will, and eventually get you out of the house. So I feel like maybe Ryan would have been better than keeping Blair or Sam on the block. But as I said earlier, like, I wouldn't mess with Willie. I don't think he's not here to make big moves. He can talk all that talk, but he ain't here for it.
Yeah.
Keep you with. Well, can I say something about Jermaine?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm gonna bring it back to the veto because Jermaine just gave me life. Because, like, with the throwing thing, like, he had to find the password to the password protected board, and then he had to claim his position inside the board, like, to say here. So he's like, there's multiple steps of how he could have just thrown the veto. You could have just told somebody else the password and told somebody else to get in and claim the spot. And he told Sam that he wasn't gonna win it. He told Sam before the veto that he wasn't gonna use it on her. Yeah, and So he's just going back on these promises, and yeah, but I think Jermaine made the right call. But Willie and this whole backdoor plan, he decided that he didn't want to ruffle the boat, rock the boat at all. And to me, that just says that he's not going to wait to strike first. He's going to wait to be stricken on. So we'll see how it works for Willie. I think he was in a great spot week 1 and week 2. His HOH reign, it kind of damaged it. And it's over a Blair eviction. Like, realize that you accomplished getting rid of Blair. And now there's competitors in the house. They didn't go with your HOH wishes because you made it clear that you wanted Sam. It was a 6-1 vote, and the one person that kept Sam was the saboteur and accomplished your seasonal task. So you got nobody looking out for you, Willie. Hopefully this woke you up and you can start playing the game.
I will just play devil's advocate on his decision real quick, because ultimately I don't think him going along with that big move was that big of a deal, because essentially we've got 2 groups right now that haven't publicly declared war, but there's a lot of background work going on, and that's Kirsten and Ryan versus Katie and Jermaine. And ultimately, since Jermaine and Katie won the veto, they want to try and make that move first, and they want to try and get one of those people out. What's good for Willie, and although I don't know if he knows he's doing this, but what I believe he's done is he's essentially kept these 2 groups alive, so that way, with both groups alive, they're going to continuously go after you. What's up?
Well, sorry, I have just a counter to the counter, and that is that Willie asked Ryan to be a pawn. You don't ask somebody to be a pawn if you're not willing to put them on the block. And so he already made his side. Ryan knows that Willie was comfortable enough asking me to be a pawn at his nominations. I don't think so.
We go around did he ask you to be a pawn?
He didn't. Everybody said no. And so I think Ryan already knows that Willie doesn't have his best interest. He kept the groups of Katie and Jermaine versus Ryan and Kirsten, but he's already sided with Katie and Jermaine. So if Ryan were to win HOH, that's an easy nom for him to nominate Willie, in my opinion.
Alright, well, Willie, I tried. So ultimately, after the veto is not used, we see Sam and Blair on the block together. As we discussed before, Willie has made it pretty obvious that he wants Sam out, but yet Blair goes home. Do you think this was the best decision that the House could make, Joe?
No, because Sam already stayed unanimously. Sam has targets in mind. People that have saved her are not going to be her targets. I think taking out someone that was trying in competitions a little harder. Blair had already said that he wasn't really going to try too hard in competition. He didn't want blood on his hands. Whereas Sam is someone who will try to fight for HOHs, vetoes, and things like that. I think the House made a terrible mistake, but I hope it bites him in the ass.
It's actually really interesting now because we're in the jury phase, so now you can't just dismiss her. Someone has to pick her up and try to get a jury vote from her. So I'm waiting for someone to be like, you know what, Sam? Everybody else hates you, but I don't. That's what I'm waiting for.
Which is why I felt like this was such a wasted opportunity for Willie, because Sam was already on the block. She had just stayed.
Unanimously.
If you won one HOH, you could have just been like, listen, don't worry, you're not going to go on the block for the second week in a row.
Yeah.
Let's work together.
It's really easy.
Just go.
Really
there's
easy to
still
pick up
there's still so many other people left in the House that he could have nominated.
And he did that for Mike. Because the easy noms were Blair and Mike, and he decided, you know what? Instead of keeping Sam safe and developing that number after she was paranoid, who's more like
saboteur
I'm gonna keep Mike, who's another non-factor. So it was weird. It was very weird.
Well, Mike did say that he and Willie do talk. Out of the people in the game, he said that he's talked to him a bit more than others, so he's got that connection. So maybe Mike wins HOH and keeps Willie safe next week. Who knows?
Maybe. But I will say that I do think Sam was the bigger threat than Blair, but I'm so glad that Sam stayed. Nothing against Blair, but during the eviction night, when they gave their speech, just listening to Sam's speech, I could tell that she really, really wanted to stay. And I'm really, really glad that she's still in the game, and I'm just praying that she can get her hands on an HOH or a veto, because I think it's going to be crazy.
Another reason why I think it was a mistake of the House to keep Sam is now that she is developing this pawn mentality, where if you're up against her, it's likely that you could potentially go home. Because she survived 2 unanimous evictions, she has relationships in the game. She's very good at speeches, like the eviction speech and the veto speech. She basically said, I'm a competitor, I deserve to stay, and everybody agreed.
Yeah.
So that usually doesn't happen. Usually people get rid of the competitors, but they're keeping Sam because I think she's charismatic, but also on the block, and they've developed that behavior to being acceptable and keeping her, so that's why it's okay to have Sam on the block. So I'm nervous. If I were ever on the block against Sam, I would be nervous.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Aaron, I want to ask you an interesting question about the Saboteur and just the overall dynamic. So, what we just kind of talked about with Willie is instead of like working with someone, he was quicker to try and paint the Saboteur target on them. If you were in the house and you knew that there was a Saboteur, would you how would you go about it? Like, would you just kind of be like, the people that I mesh with are the people that I mesh with? If one of them turns out to be the Saboteur, then great. If not, then whatever. How would that affect your overall dynamic of the house?
I would do exactly that. When Patrick told Willie to do your thing, don't think about the Saboteur, that's the best advice you can give anybody in the game, like not just HOH, but if you're gonna screw yourself over, like trying to double think about what everyone said or what everyone does. Because there are 11 people in the game, but not all of them are Saboteur, only one of them is. So you can't like start challenging every move that everyone's making. Like everybody's already sneaky because that's how the game is. So like you can't like think too hard about it. I would just do my own thing, and if the Saboteur ends up on the block and evicted, then hooray, but like it's not something that I'm thinking about all the time.
And let's definitely start talking about the Saboteur. Kirsten, she has survived week 2, which means she only needs one more week before she gets her power. Keith, tell me about the state of Kirsten's game right now.
Yes. Okay, so week 2, she realized that she played really hard week 1 and she took a backseat, which was perfect. Good job, Kirsten. She I think it was also a combination of her playing another orc, but I think it was actually really good that she took a backseat in this game, allowed other people to lead the charge, and she accomplished a lot of tasks this week. She finished her seasonal tasks, which was posting the house thread, exposing an alliance. Her thought process there was so funny. She was like, I'm definitely not going to put myself in the limelight. And it was good that she didn't, because people think that for some reason Willie is the Saboteur and he exposed himself. Katie and Jermaine are being accused. Mike is also being accused. Everybody that she exposed is being accused of the Saboteur, and she's not yet. So that was pretty funny. And then she also accomplished the task of voting in the minority. She knew where the votes were going. Everybody was going to vote to keep Sam. She voted to evict Sam, so she's good to go in that aspect. She only has one more task to complete, a weekly task, and she's going to complete it because she's just going to lock people out of boards. So congratulations, Kirsten. You're going to win the Diamond Power of Veto, which you will be receiving on Wednesday. I gave it first class shipping.
Because that's how we go. That's how we roll.
That's how much money you got on
That's how much money
That's how
That's
dedicated.
our entire budget for season 2.
That's our entire budget. That's how dedicated we are, because she lives in freaking Canada. That shit's not cheap. So
That's
yeah,
funny.
it'll be fun.
That's funny. Okay, so let's kind of start talking about favorites and kind of who we're rooting for, since that was essentially the end of the week. And Joe, right now, who would you say that you're rooting for? Who do you think is playing the best game?
There's a difference between who I'm rooting for.
Well, feel free to talk about either.
But right now, I'm hoping that Jason can kind of wake up a little. I'm rooting for him, but he is not playing very well right now. I'm also rooting for Katie.
Okay.
And I think she did a pretty good job in week 2. More of the heat is on Jermaine, and more of the heat is on Ryan versus Kirsten and Katie. Those 2 girls are playing really well right now, so those are my 3.
Cool. Aaron, what about you?
Everything you said about Jason, I'm just like,
Please, Jason.
like wake up, please. But also, I'm just really, I just want to keep following like Patrick and what Patrick's going to do, because he's such a, I don't know what the word is. He's just,
He's TLC. He's crazy
he's
sexy
there.
cool. Crazy sexy
There.
cool, right?
Sure, that's the word. But I'll keep eyes on Patrick.
For me, Patrick is the Tom of the season, where I always want to see him get challenged and everybody's just pushing him towards the end. So I'm rooting for Patrick. I think he's playing a great game. He knows he's playing a great game because he says he is inside his DR. And I just want to see him get challenged, but I also very much so rooting for him. Love watching Kirsten play. I think she's in hot water this coming week. A lot of people were against Kirsten and Ryan the second week. It was good she laid low, but a lot of people are beginning to form against Kirsten. Ryan is becoming a house mentality. They know that she's in all these deals and stuff, so Kirsten's in some hot water. I think Ryan might leave before Kirsten, but I'm also not sure about that. But I think they're in hot water, but I think it's going to be fun watching them play. Mike, I think, might actually become something interesting in week 3. He kind of coasted along in the first 2 weeks.
We're in jury. Time to play.
It's time to
Time to
play.
play.
He's the only one that made a week 3 DR pre-HOH, so I'm like, oh, he's feeling some type of way. He's going to go into this HOH really wanting to play. So I think them leaving Mike in as opposed to Blair was a mistake.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up Mike because I actually really like Mike. I think he's actually really, really funny. So I'm hoping that he kind of throws himself. I saw it.
I'm hoping that he pushes himself more into the game and he gets more active because he's someone that I definitely want to see more of. I think it's safe to say Patrick is playing the best game. He's just a really good player, but ultimately I want him. I don't want this to be a cakewalk. Like I want him to lose people. I want him to almost go home. That's what I want for Patrick. But ultimately, I think the person that I'm still rooting the most for would probably be Kirsten, just because she's so much fun to watch as the saboteur. I think she's definitely playing it in the best way that she can. She definitely is in some hot water. What Kirsten needs right now is she needs a Ryan HOH.
Mm-hmm.
Like she needs Ryan to win HOH, get that target, have a week where she's guaranteed safety, and then just kind of go from there.
Coast.
Exactly. And so I'm really, really hoping that Ryan can win HOH this week. I think that would be great for her. But yeah, I think this is a pretty interesting season so far, and definitely it's gonna get a little messy soon, which I'm excited for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So thank you guys for watching so much. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and keep up with the basics. Don't forget, stay basic.
Stay basic.
Good job.